Today's video is going to be recapping all the games that I brought over my 5-week theater contract, which games got played, which games didn't get played, which games were huge successes, and which games were horrible, horrible failures. So going into this contract, I just came back from doing a 5-week contract of Miracle on 31st Street. Nope, on 34th Street. It was the real one. It wasn't the offshoot brand. It wasn't the Temu version. Oh, don't worry. Nope, they're not sponsoring this one. Temu Terry, you stay far away. But I just came back from 5 weeks away of doing Miracle on 34th Street. And as whenever I go away on a contract, my goal is always to play games. There were a couple people who knew that I was going to be bringing games, who I'd worked with before, and there were quite a few people who I had never met before as well. In addition, I left the car here in Toronto because I didn't really need it up there, and took the train, so that meant I could only pack one bag of games. Out of my entire collection, I had to distill that down to one single bag. This bag right here from our good friends at BoardGameTables.com. And so I packed a bag, and so I wanted to balance out games that could play at higher player counts. I wanted to get some games because I knew we'd be having 2 show days fairly consistently, and so I wanted some games that would play in between our break from like 3:30 to 7. You know, I tried to make sure that all the games could easily fit in that realm for those people who were interested. And I also wanted to balance out stuff that I knew had hit before versus new stuff that I wanted to selfishly get to the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first talk about the games that didn't see play. And I'm going to order them by how good of an idea it was to bring them versus not. I think my biggest failure here was bringing Castles of Mad King Ludwig. I brought Castles of Mad King Ludwig very selfishly. I hadn't played this in a while, and I was like, you know what? I want to play it. I'm bringing this for me, and it's a good game, right? I think it's a good game. I think it's a good medium complexity game. I think it could be a really nice introduction to some people if they were interested in sinking their teeth in a little bit more into some board gaming systems. I like the auction, and I felt that the building of the castle might appeal to certain people. It never got played. Now, to be fair, a lot of these games didn't get played. I was very busy. I didn't have as much time as I wanted to, and also, I never try to push games upon people when I'm there, and people weren't as interested in playing the games, and that's, you know, completely fine. It is a direct reflection upon how I feel about these people, and if I ever intend to see them again in the future, but we won't hold it against them too much. But I think Castles was a bad choice. Castles was a bad choice because I brought it for me, right? Like that's going to be the running theme throughout this, is not really anticipating the audience. I don't think I anticipated the audience very well. I think this was probably a little bit too, not necessarily complex, but I think even too long to be able to use it in those periods of time, right? Not accounting for people wanting to take breaks, not wanting the game to fill up the entire break as well. So that's why I would put Castles last. As good picks, and especially because I'm only limited to a certain space, and this is a standard size box. So I'm more critical of this one if it didn't get played because it took up more room, and so that's why I don't think it was a good idea. Everything else I think was a pretty good idea and had the potential to get played. There were actually some people who enjoyed playing Dominion, and so I brought the Hunger. The Hunger performed really well over the summer. Everybody really enjoyed it and ranked it pretty high. I think the deck building is fairly easy. And I think the theme draws people in more than Clank. I think this might be a more accessible version of Clank, or at least that was my hypothesis. It didn't get played. It didn't get played, but I don't regret that it didn't get played. Again, this one plays in like 60 minutes. It's a shorter time than Clank. That was why I decided to bring it. I think if people had wanted to play it, they would have enjoyed it. But it also didn't end up getting played, but it is less unforgivable that it didn't get played than others, than Castles of Burgundy. However, we do have that box size factor coming into play as well. Another one that didn't get played that I was surprised didn't is the White Castle. I'm not upset that I brought this. I had to bring it. I just filmed the commentary for De Vere's White Castle tournament that they had at WSBG, and that'll be out on the Dice Tower. I think December 30th is when I'm going to schedule it. So I wanted to bring this to make sure I had the rules, to make sure I had the components to reference when I was doing that as a commentary, so kind of had to bring this for work. I also, 2 years ago, the Red Cathedral was a hit. Like, Red Cathedral was a really big hit a couple years ago, when our assistant stage manager even was like, yeah, I want to go out and I want to buy this game. And then we even played with the Contractors expansion as well. And so I figured, just in case that person was back, they weren't, but a couple other people who I played Red Cathedral with were also there. And they were interested in White Castle. It just didn't end up getting to the table, again, due to time constraints. But I'm very happy. Anytime you're packing a game, or anytime you're packing a bag for like a 5-week period and you want to get a nice chunky game in the box, like, you can't beat White Castle and you can't beat Red Cathedral. Both of these games are so fantastic in terms of their compact nature and in terms of how much game they cram into these boxes. White Castle is no exception. I'm really happy I brought it. I don't think it would have been too complex. I really don't. White Castle, you're taking 9 turns, you know? It's a very simple game, but it can take, like, you chain things together, boom, 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 boom. And anything with different scoring conditions and different end game scoring conditions, I find that's when people glaze over. And that's also, especially in a game where you might be introducing new gamers, it's hard for them to keep track of these scoring conditions. Well, the Hunger, I think, is actually probably a better contender, because you have one scoring condition: have the most points, don't die. And every card clearly has points kind of labeled on them. But in White Castle, like, every farmer could be worth different points. The warriors only are worth points in relationship to the other things you build upon the table. And so I find the largest bit of complexity in White Castle might be with the scoring. And so I don't think it would have been as adopted as excitedly as others, but I still wanted to bring it, and I'm still happy with it. Another game that I did bring, and I'm very happy that I brought, is Seven Wonders. I have all of Seven Wonders in the Seven Wonders Leaders expansion. You can fit the entire thing in here. I have an elastic around the front just because there's a little bit of lid lift, but if I take it off to show you. This was one of my most exciting discoveries, and I only did this because WSPG was playing with the Leaders expansion. You can fit all of Seven Wonders and the Leaders expansion, boom, filled to the brim. It only has lid lift because I'm also including the cheat sheets and the rulebook in it, which I've just folded in half to make sure that it fits into the box. But I'm super, super happy that Seven Wonders is this compact, and it really changed Seven Wonders from being a game that, like, I didn't want on my shelf. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it enough to take up the space that the box took up on my shelf, to something I'm really, really happy with having on my shelf, just through this little space-saving thing. I feel like this size of box is emblematic of the size of experience that you can get with Seven Wonders. Now, Seven Wonders is also iffy when you're dealing with new gamers, because there are so many different scoring conditions. The science symbols are often a little bit hard to grasp during the teaching, and especially when people don't know the cards that they will be getting in the third age, it's hard for them to plan for it. But it also plays so quickly and plays with so many people that I was like, it felt like an auto include for me. And I'm quite happy with its addition, even though it didn't get played, it's fine. 2 more that didn't get played, they kind of get into the party edition. Yes, I know. This is a whole, this is also a recap. This is like a post-mortem on what did I bring? Like, what did I bring? What would I do differently? And I just think it's nice to talk about. And you know what? I'm sick. So I want to just talk about something easy, because I don't have the bandwidth to do much else. The other one that I brought is Adventure Party. Adventure Party was a pretty huge hit in the summer as well. A lot of people really enjoyed Adventure Party. I really enjoyed Adventure Party. This is my copy of Adventure Party because I gave it away to my friend Amaka in the summer because they ranked it the highest on their list. But so I decided to bring it again. And this one didn't get played because I also brought Wavelength. Wavelength, which was a hit last time. I opted... Well, sure, let's pull Wavelength out here. We're going a bit out of order. We're going a bit out of order here. Wavelength would be a lot higher, but I'm talking about it in the same capacity. And this is why this one didn't get played. And so perhaps not a great choice on my part to bring Adventure Party as well. I did have designs to ship this copy to somebody during the contract, but then Canada Post shut down, and I couldn't ship it. So yeah, so that was part of my justification. But really, I probably shouldn't have brought both. Adventure Party and Wavelength kind of scratch the same itch. And if I was really being focused on variability that I could bring to the table, I should have just brought Wavelength, and I shouldn't have brought Adventure Party, so you can go back up on the shelf there for now. Wavelength was a hit. I put Wavelength like third best choice of what was received. People enjoyed playing Wavelength. People enjoyed playing Celebrity. We played Celebrity or Monikers or whatever. I put them on the same bar as well, because that's the vibe, right? That was the vibe. It was a larger group. They just wanted to do larger party games without too much investment. But yeah, Wavelength was a surefire hit. It's better than Codenames. It's better than Codenames, which is why it took the spot over Codenames. And it depends. I mean, I think it's probably better than Adventure Party too. Different strokes for different folks. So Wavelength was a good pick. Here was the only other one that I think would have been a good pick as well. This is Good Cop, Bad Cop. I haven't played this yet at all, but I've read through the rules, obviously in preparation of potentially teaching this. Somebody sent this my way, whoever the publisher is, Pull the Pin Games sent this my way, and I told them, I was like, listen, I probably won't do a full review, but like, if it's good, I'll talk about it. I really like what I'm seeing so far from, except I don't know which way is up and which way is down. I guess, you know, the flap kind of tells you that, as you just saw. It's a really nice production. It just holds the cards, and I also have the zombie expansion. This reminds me a little bit of Bang, but I'm not a big fan of Bang, and I think I will enjoy this better than Bang. Essentially, you'll either be crooked or you'll be honest, and one of you will be the kingpin and one of you will be the agent. And so both teams are trying to kill the kingpin or kill the agent as it goes around the table. But there's also a zombies expansion in here where when you die, it takes away that player elimination, which I think is really smart. You become a zombie, and then your goal is to just kill everybody else and like get everybody onto the zombie team, and the zombies then have their own win condition. And I think that's really great. And even in a game that's going to play pretty quickly, it takes out the player elimination, and I think that's just a really smart thing to do. So I was really bummed. I was the most bummed I didn't get this to the table, because I thought the group would enjoy it. Again, kind of big party game. I probably could have pushed a little bit harder to try to get this to the table, if I'm really being honest. But what can you do? I didn't, but I still think it looks good, and that's why I'm telling you about it. The other ones that all had kind of a middling success. Coup, we played at lunch. It didn't quite grab people enough to want to keep playing it. And again, it just ended up being like a lunchtime crowd that wasn't that interested in these sorts of things. Again, One Night Werewolf was another one of these that I brought. Honestly, Coup, One Night Werewolf, and Cockroach Poker, these are the three that I will kind of auto-include into any contract. Because they will hit in some cases, they won't hit in others. They don't take up the space. They're not taking up too much space whatsoever. So it's easy to throw them in. They all hit different feelings. Coup is one where the more people play it, the more that they enjoy it. One Night Werewolf, it depends if you get annoyed by the app, if you have people who have low attention spans. And then Cockroach Poker is just a really great bluffing game. All of those kind of hit in a similar way, which was meh. But I'm not really that concerned that they didn't hit in a solid way, because they're always going to hit there. They're never going to be mind-blowing experiences, but they're quite good at what they do. A few more. The one that really failed, in my opinion, is Raw. Raw really failed, and this isn't the first time I've seen Raw fail. And I know that Raw can fail. I've heard a bunch of people in the Discord say that Raw can fail as well. And I just don't care because I like it too much. But again, this is another one where it was kind of a selfish choice. I don't know if we played it in the right setting. It ran a little bit long for what the people wanted it to be. And it's another game where it's tough as a new player against people who know the game pretty well. I don't know. I guess I took some flexibility in the first round. One of the players shot out to a super early lead, which was great, because then I never feel bad about like catching up. But I think just like afterwards, people were like, yeah, it was okay. Like, I enjoyed it. I'd want to play it again though. You know, like it gave them that feeling, which is again good, but I don't think it gave them the feeling of like they'd want to play it again. Like they would actively go out and they would search for it, play it again. I think they wanted to play it again because they found it a bit overwhelming. And at the same time, they found it a bit underwhelming. There weren't these memorable moments. And at the end of the day, like, this is a game that sort of rewards tight bidding, right? And people who are really into that. And if you don't know that your audience is into that, I don't think you're going to get away with it. They really enjoyed slamming the statue down and shouting raw. Like, that is also a draw. That's a draw to the game for sure, but it's not enough of a draw to get people going. So while I really enjoy this game, I think it might not be one that I bring to contracts again because of the middling results that I've had with it. And it doesn't matter that I really like it. Like, this is, I love this game. It's so good. It's in my top 50 for sure, which I should probably do. You know, I've only done it ever top 20. We'll get to that at some point in time. But yeah, I think Raw can have really middling results, and I think I need to preface that whenever I talk about how much I love it and enjoy it. But for now, it goes back on the shelf. Now we're going to get into the successes. So number 5 on successes, I'd say, was Dutch Blitz. Of course, I brought Dutch Blitz. We played it one night, and I am absolutely gutted that I had to record a loss into my stats. That's why it's lower down for me, because my head was not in the game. But it is what it is, and everybody had a good time. Everybody, from a variety of players, from people who knew the game to people who didn't know the game, everybody still really enjoyed themselves, and that is ultimately what matters, even if there will be a mark against me for the rest of my life, which I will regret to my dying day. 3 points! Oh, I just played so poorly. I just was so not focused. But what can you do? Above Dutch Blitz, I think I would put Neotopia. Neotopia is great. It hits in that Azul realm. The people who I played it with were really excited about the decisions that were happening. They really enjoyed the process. It played super quickly. It was the right length of time. It was like 45 minutes with 3 players. That was including teaching it. It's such a great abstract game. I think this should be on the same level as Azul and as Sagrada in that abstract creating patterns. I just think it's really good. I'm so surprised at how well this performs pretty much to anybody who I introduce it to. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but you're filling these 3 different cities essentially, and the scoring is you get your score for whatever points you get in that city. Your score for whatever points you get in that city, and this city, which is the city that you scored the least points in, well, you get 3 times that. So it's kind of like Knizia scoring in that you want to build everything in a balanced way, and because you get 3 times those points. Now, if you're using the BG Stats app, it says ×3 on the score sheet. It doesn't do that multiplication for you, so just be aware. I found that out when I was doing the scoring. But yeah, really, really enjoyed this. So did everybody who played it as well. I played it with Santa, the guy who was playing Santa, who is a big board gamer, and we were supposed to play Hallertau. I learned how to play Hallertau because he had it in his car, but we just, again, didn't get to it. He had too many people wanting to say hi to him watching the show, and we just couldn't get to it in between shows, and then he was, that's life. I think he's going to come to Niagara Board Game Convention, though, so that'll be cool. Yeah, so that would be number 4. Number 3, I would put as Wavelength, like I talked about. This was always a great success. I think it is the best ice-breaking party game out there. I do. I think it's better than Role Player. I think because Role Player requires people to be invested. I think it's way better than Codenames because you get that instant feedback of talking about your clue right afterwards. You're like, yeah. Oh, no, I was thinking this. No, you're just a little bit more. That's exactly what I was thinking. And you get that like getting to know you sensation that feels really great. I think that was enjoyed to the same capacity as Celebrity as well, where you always have to play with the 4th round under a sheet. I prefer Celebrity over Monikers because Monikers has the cards printed out for you. You can just buy this as a copy. Celebrity, you don't have to spend money for it, and you can add people who are in the room. Essentially, like 2 of us put our director, Donnie Bose, into the mix, and we would never have had that as an option if we were just using Monikers. There was one person who somebody put in Morgan Wallen, who none of us had ever heard of before, a country singer. They said they were going scandals only. Morgan Wallen, who apparently said a hate crime on stream, so that's great. But we never would have had that memory, that experience, and then over the course of the rest of the contract, we were like, you and Morgan Wallen, you had those inside jokes that are built. I think Celebrity is just like a really fantastic game. Now, number 2 is a game that I did not bring. It is a game that I have on my shelf and that I went out and I bought a copy because I arrived with my bag of games and poor sweet Allie looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "Oh, did you bring, what was that one with the bags?" And my heart sank. I was like, no, I didn't. I'm like, are you talking about the glorious Sheriff of Nottingham? No, sweet Allie, I didn't bring it. because I was selfish and I wanted to bring other games. Raw probably took that spot in the bag, realistically. And so Ali was like, oh no, that was like my favorite one that we played the last, like 2 years ago. Like she remembered it 2 years ago and she was like, dang, that was so fun. And so what I did is, because I was visiting my friend up in Ottawa, which was just, 40-minute drive away, I looked up on Kijiji to see if anybody was selling Sheriff of Nottingham, and somebody was selling it for $40. And so I haggled them down to $30 because I have to practice what I preach by being cheap. And it was still around in like the 2 weeks that I could come and get it. I was like, listen, if it's not around, it's not around, whatever. It's not, I already own it. I'm not that nice a person, okay? I'm not that nice. I want to spend 30 on this gift and not 40. And so I got it. And so I gave it to Ali. So now Ali can have a copy. And then Ali decided to leave it at the theater. So the theater can always have a copy. And even when I was leaving, Connor, one of the people in the show, was like, hey, can I take Sheriff of Nottingham home? Like, nobody's going to be at the theater until at least the summer. So can I take it? I was like, dude, take it. Play it. Everybody who played this game loved it. Sheriff of Nottingham is a fantastic game. Kamon has ruined it with its horrible art in the second edition. But luckily, I found the first edition copy, so we got that. And I want to give, what was the coolest part about it is I want to give a huge shout out to Eric, if you're watching. And I better look up to make sure that I'm remembering your name correctly, but I'm pretty sure I am. Eric is waiting for your reply. Oh, he's waiting for my reply. But yeah, I met a lovely guy named Eric who watches the channel. So Eric, if you're watching, sorry for haggling you, but thank you for giving me a good deal. It was super enjoyed. Everybody loved it so much. And it's because of its simplicity. Like it's a bluffing game for people who don't like bluffing, because you can tell the truth. People got really into it. They really enjoyed it a lot. And it was really cool for me, because it's always really cool. Whenever I meet people who watch the channel, I get pretty excited. And so it was cool when Eric came up and was like, hey, I know you. Do you live in Ottawa? I was like, oh no, I'm just here visiting, but like, thank you. So that was also really cool. So huge shout out to Eric. Eric, if you're watching, comment down below and like, let me know that you're watching. I don't know. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you letting me haggle you down. And I really was so thrilled. Made my week getting to meet you for our brief interaction. So that was number 2 for sure. But there was one game that people glommed onto, that people were like, I want to go and buy a copy after playing this. I had hoped that this would be the accessible gem that it is, and it did not disappoint. And that is Charcuterie, the board game. This game is fantastic. It's so good. It is so good. It's so good as like a lightweight filler. It is designed to be an appetizer style game. And all it is you're drawing tiles out of a bag and you're putting them on your charcuterie board and arranging them in groups, because each group will score under a certain scoring conditions. And the scoring conditions really vary and shake things up. There's 3 different scoring conditions for each category of thing, so 18 total scoring conditions. And it's different. It's like, oh, sometimes your dips, you want them to be connected to meats that you're dipping them in. Sometimes you just are going for set collection of dips. For vegetables, sometimes it's have more vegetables than somebody beside you, or sometimes it's have matching pairs of vegetables. And it really does shape how the draft is changed, because essentially what happens is the host will draw a certain number of tiles out of the bag. In a 4-player game, let's say they'll draw 12 tiles and they'll make stacks of 3. Then everybody else, I cut, you choose style, gets to take those tiles and arrange them on their charcuterie board, and you can rearrange throughout the game. Everybody's the host twice. Then the game is over. Then you have 1 minute to finish up your charcuterie board, which is good. Like, it never really puts that much pressure on it, but it puts a little bit of pressure, which is just very nice. And then you score points. Everybody has hidden goals that they're also working towards. So you might be a vegetarian and you might not want to have meat on your charcuterie board. And you have to balance that out of if the meat points are worth a lot, or if you can get other points in other ways. Like, if we're going to look at them in like a huge, is this balanced perspective? No, I think the personal goals are sometimes not balanced, but it depends, because like I had one where I needed to get more hummus than my neighbors. And so I got 2 hummus, and those hummus really didn't score me any other points than achieving that goal. And I really had to take bad stacks to do so. Whereas somebody who was going for get lots of meat was able to use that meat in conjunction to get additional points. So I think it balances out really well. People were obsessed with this game. People requested to play it over and over and over. It is one of the reasons why we didn't play other games, because people were like, charcuterie. And people were saying that they were immediately going on Amazon and trying to find out where they could buy an additional copy of charcuterie. I am so thrilled with this game. It does exactly what I was hoping it would. It's a great price as well. It was like $40 Canadian or something. for such a solid lightweight game that is accessible, that draws people in with the theme. I'm just so blown away by this game, and so thrilled that I got suckered into joining a group buy to get it. Charcuterie was great. Charcuterie was a great hit, and I'm thrilled that it was the clear number one of what people like the most. So all in all, didn't play that many games. Had a lot of stuff going on. What can you do? Still got to play some games, still got to enjoy the games that were played. A couple of these were misses, but realistically, I don't think anything else I brought would have gotten played either, you know? Unless I'd done a few more lightweight filler ones, like if I had brought, maybe Cascadia could have seen play, maybe Canvas could have seen play, Azul could have seen play, Acropolis might have seen play, Furnace probably wouldn't have. Furnace probably would have been better than Raw, though, realistically. I'm just looking at my other shelf over there. But yeah, that's kind of the recap. Those are my thoughts on what games got played, what didn't. There you go. That's the video. Go away. My name's Chris George. I don't know catchphrase, but I do think everybody should pay attention and look into this if you need lightweight filler games in your life. It's really good. Really good.